Good afternoon from Bali, everyone. It's Aniva Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I thought I would talk about something that's on a lot of people's minds, a lot of our minds, and not only today, but it's certainly on people's minds throughout time. And this is about the cost of things. So, the cost of things. When we look at this, how many people, and yourself included, talk about the changing economy and how inflation is rising and how costs for everything are increasing? And we'll notice that whatever we know well, we are aware of the escalating prices. So let's say if you know cars well, you'll see that car prices are going up. If we say that I love food in terms of cooking, so of course I will notice grocery prices. And you might be noticing this too. I mean, food is something that we all get. Maybe you eat out more and you might notice that, whoa, costs in restaurants are costing more now. People might be interested in buying clothes and they'll notice that the cost of clothing costs more now. Cost of homes costs more now. So cost. And it's been on our mind throughout time because we can look at old kingdoms of the past and we think the very wealthy, rich ruling class and then the peasants. And so we've known that there's the poverty and then there's the richness. And this is related to money. And today I thought I would talk about how this is definitely not even the difference between a time and space, because we can think about a country being rich. So I know that in Bali, a lot of people will look at foreigners as automatically being rich. They have money, they're foreigners. And foreigners, especially with lighter skin, lighter eyes, there's terms that are used for foreigners like this. And I will say that there's been a lot of European influence in Bali. So there is this feeling of they have money. And so when foreigners come in, there's already this feeling of they have money. And then, of course, both sides are also thinking that, well, Bali is poor. And so Balinese are poor. And this is not true. And this is an interesting thing that I find that the people who are on that side of being seen as rich, whether they are or are not, because we know that in North America at least, and I suspect all around the world, there's a lot of people that are highly in debt. So in terms of usable money, there's not a lot of people that come from foreign countries to Bali that have a lot of usable money. But just because of how they look or where they're from, there is this bias about they must be wealthy. And this is an interesting thing that we do in Canada too. And of course, I'm noticing that some of the Europeans that I speak with here will even be really happy about this because they like being seen as wealthy, that, I've got money. And, there's a big ego in that, of course. People will treat them very, very well, pull all sorts of things in terms of extra favoritism, I'm going to say. Now, remember that favoritism in that context is being done for a purpose. Maybe the person doing that favor will get a higher tip. And there's a lot of service industry in Bali. So this is often on the minds of people that are helping people that are visitors. The visitors are, again, seen as a source of income and a necessary source of income for sure. But which job is not a necessary source of income? So income, I wanted to talk about in terms of at what cost. And, we talk about at what cost. And when you look at very wealthy people, and if you know very wealthy people, I've certainly met some very wealthy people, but even if we only read about them in the papers, we can see that there's just as much depression and suicide rates that are increasing, especially post-COVID, in the very wealthy. So I might think about actors and actresses, or we might think about company owners, big CEOs, or and things like this, that we would put that category as doing really well. Of course, they also have health concerns and other issues that happen in their life, like everyone else. And of course, the poor person thinks that, well, if I had that much money, I could deal with anything. Well, when a person, even with a lot of money, is dealing with illness, no amount of money matters. And this is what I would like us to focus on, is that at what cost? So when we look at businesses, people have lost deep, long-lasting friendships because of money in business. And people have lost incredible relationships because of money in marriage or even just partnerships. People have lost contact with family, with their dearest friends and acquaintances because of money. And some sort of argument happens with this finite resource of money. So I thought I'd read this one quotation to you, and it's by Benjamin Franklin. And it says, "Money has never made man happy, nor will it. There is nothing in its nature to produce happiness. The more of it one has, the more one wants." And we can understand this because no matter what level of money we are working from, we're always happy to have more. And this is the truth about anything that's finite in this world. So every single thing that is finite, life is finite, and we want more life when things are good. Money is finite, definitely. Poor or rich, people want more than what they have. And of course, food is finite, and people want more food. And we finish a meal, so even if we finished a meal and we're not gluttonous about it, we do want the next meal. So that is a finite resource, yet we want more. Now, the interesting thing is in the finite, we can see something spiritual that even though this is necessary, it's not the real and eternal energy. It is a temporary benefit, temporary, could be a need, could be a desire, could be a want, could be a luxury. It's temporary. And in terms of the long-lasting, eternal, everlasting, those are the things that are not measurable, and they do last forever. And you would think, well, what would last forever? Kindness lasts forever. Gratitude lasts forever. Appreciation lasts forever. And you might want to do it more, especially if you're in a habit of these things, of really appreciating something. And that only brings about more of the things that you appreciate or we appreciate. Now remember, with the finite things, we don't really appreciate food until we've got an empty stomach. We don't really appreciate money until we've got an empty bank account. So interesting way to look at how the finite is there, not usually with some appreciation, but definitely a desire, a want, a luxury, when we're out of it or we need more of it. Whatever it is, we want more of it. I shouldn't say need, because we want more of it. So I'll choose not to say need. I'll say there is a lot of want in that finite area. In terms of the love, compassion, kindness, honesty, we want that, but we put very little value to it. We put value to money, and yet it is finite. In terms of love and compassion and these sorts of things that are eternal and everlasting, we don't actually put that much value to it because we can't measure how much is it, how good do I feel. That's right, I feel good. I feel good, like when I have a good meal is when how I feel when someone gives me a compliment and they really say it from their heart and appreciating. Yet that I will remember for ever, likely. When it's an authentic space that something is shared from, we remember it forever and we carry it with us. When something is done for a purpose, a transaction, like my video that I'd mentioned last time, you might notice about these sorts of things that, again, love can be done for a particular purpose and transactional benefit, or it can be done from this authentic space. And this authentic space is felt by us. It is definitely felt by the world around us. It's definitely felt by the earth, by the sky, by everything that's also eternal and everlasting. And these sorts of ideas, we can understand that at what cost, right? So at what cost will we eat more and more and more, knowing that we're eating so much that, companies have made money now on GMO businesses, which are not feeding us healthy things, but it produces the food and the amount of food that we are demanding. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is understanding that when someone has everything that they could possibly want in the finite world, and people do, what do they miss? They miss the love, they miss the companionship, they miss friendship, they miss truth and honesty, the very basics, because now lots of people would look at them as to what can I gain from this person, and I bet they've got money on their mind when they're talking to me. So this is the bias that comes from the person who's looking at someone who's got everything. And that genuineness and that authentic energy of coming from that space of truth is not so felt for many of the people who are in that very wealthy place. So this is what I wanted to bring your attention to in this video about at what cost. And today I thought I'd finish with this awesome story that I read, and it's wonderful, and it definitely highlights everything that I'm talking about in this video. So this is a story of the former Prime Minister of the UK. So it says, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Winston Churchill, once said, "I took a taxi one day to the BBC office for an interview. When I arrived, I asked the driver to wait for me for 40 minutes until I got back, but the driver apologized and said, 'I can't because I have to go home to listen to Winston Churchill's speech.' I was amazed and delighted with the man's desire to listen to my speech, so I took out £10 and gave it to the taxi driver without telling him who I was. When the driver collected the money, he said, 'I'll wait for hours until you come back, sir,' and let Churchill go to hell." I just think that's hilarious. It's again this whole idea of wanting to benefit someone who seems to be doing something from their heart because of a true intention or integrity or consciousness could be happening only for a very superficial reason. And you see how when money came into this, he was all over the money rather than actually wanting to see Churchill speak. And this is what we can all understand, because again, until this sort of experience happens to us ourselves, we really think that, wow, what a clever person I am in making sure that I'm doing this because I need the money. Meanwhile, it's changing the whole dynamics of how we interact with one another. Today, I hope that that story makes you laugh and also centers your mind to focus on the everlasting and eternal, done with authenticity, as opposed to the temporary and transient, which finishes and never gives that long-lasting satisfaction. I wish you a fantastic day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.